everyone. Welcome to the HealthyCare Podcast. My name is Catherine Okubo, and here we talk about everything that is related to health and wellness. And today we have a very special guest, very interesting topic. She is a Board Certified Holistic Nutritionist, a Level 2 Certified Nutrition Recovery Coach, and an Amen Clinics Certified Brain Health Professional. She's on a mission to change how you see your mental health, how you deal with that via nutrition. And we are very pleased to have today with us Jayne Reynolds. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here today and just share some of this and bring hopefully a little bit of hope to the world.
Well, that's wonderful, Jayne. And I think on our last conversation, I was very impressed by everything that you share because a lot of people don't realize how much mental health is related to nutrition and our
Mhm.
gut. Can you kind of explain that relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a number of different things that are going on inside the digestive tract that impact the way that our brain functions. The first thing that is loud and proud is that we have about 90% of our serotonin is made inside of our digestive tract. About 60 to 70% of your dopamine is made there, and a lot of your GABA receptors are made there too. So if you have inflammation in the gut, if you have digestive processes that are very broken, maybe you have H. pylori or you have infection or parasites, these all impact the way that your body can take in and use nutrients and produce the things that give us a healthy brain. And so if your brain is offline, then if your gut is offline, then your brain is very likely to be offline as well. It's not going to function like it should.
So it will impact our moods too,
Yes.
our even for example, other areas like sexual stamina, things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. Because a lot of our pleasure and reward is in our dopamine pathways. So your sex drive
Mhm.
is going to be terrible if your dopamine pathway is not where it should be at. So yes, it's going to impact sexual stamina, energy, mood, the way you show up at work, the way you show up for family and friends, how social you feel, how well you sleep. All of these things are directly correlated to how well your gut is functioning and how your body is able to use the nutrients that are going in.
So does that also make a connection between like food sensitivities and depression?
100%. And that's where my journey started. I had no idea that there was any correlation between the things I was putting into my body and how my mood was impacted. And I spent 7 years living with debilitating depression and anxiety. And one
Wow.
day, a holistic practitioner said, "Hey, look, I see you trying. You're on benzos, you're on SSRIs, you are doing talk therapy, so you're doing all the right things to make this stuff clear up and go away. Maybe you should try." We did neurotransmitter testing, which I can talk about if you want to. And then they suggested going gluten free. And it took me about 2 weeks to decide to do it because it's in everything and it's a hard thing to
Right.
choose to do, right? But I did it for my gut because I was having so many gut symptoms. And I woke up about a week later and my anxiety attacks had stopped and they had been debilitating and I'd had them for 7 years. So I
Wow.
started asking, how is it that this is impacting my body? What is it driving? How is it driving inflammation? And what else do I need to know? I got more testing done with my naturopath at the time to look at delayed food allergies. I had gluten, dairy, eggs, beef, and Brazil nuts on my list that time.
Wow.
Um, Things that you would never think to check for, right? Whoever thinks I might have a delayed food sensitivity to beef or Brazil nuts. I took them out,
Yeah.
for a season. We did some gut work, and gluten is still not my best friend, so I have not reintroduced that. I have a history in my family with celiac and autoimmune disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity, so it's probably just generally speaking, genetically not a good fit for us. But I've been able to put a lot of other things back in and get my, getting my gut health back online. But we see a direct correlation, and there are studies showing a direct correlation not only with gluten, but with dairy. And then also in the body can confuse the proteins that are in corn and oats, and some coffees as well, some instant coffees, for gluten as well. So even if you're taking gluten out and you're still experiencing symptoms, it could be one of those other things. So we definitely test. It makes it easier. We could, if you take those foods out, they really need to be out for about a month because of the immune reaction that's going on inside of the body to give the body time to calm down. Well, if we did that with 180, 190 foods, it would take about 14 years to take the food out and then put the
Wow.
food back in. So we can test and we can get those answers in about 2 weeks and get people on a bio-individual diet that really helps their mental health right out of the gate.
And talking a little bit deeper too on the mental
hmm
health piece, I know when we last talked, you mentioned about bipolar disorder and a relationship with protein intake.
hmm
Can you share more about this?
Well, bipolar disorder can show up for a number of different reasons. So, nutrition is not the only thing that can impact it. But where we see it the most is actually with thyroid function. And then the connection between food sensitivities as well can drive mood changes and disorders from everything from bipolar disorder to schizophrenia. So, if you are not eating clean for your body, which is individual for everybody, you are at higher risk of having an impact on your thyroid and on your pancreas and on your adrenal glands. And all of that is going to impact how your mood is playing itself out. And so I had a client at one point who came to see me. He had bipolar disorder. He was on 17 different medications. And he needed some medication, but he did not need 17 medications, right? And so he had a history of addiction in the past. And we started working. What we figured out, which is not uncommon, was that he had replaced his drug addiction with a sugar addiction. And so
Oh.
he was driving his highs and lows by leaning highly. And when I say like highly, is he'd get up at 3 a.m. and eat an entire pecan pie by himself. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so high intake of sugar and sugar to fuel. He'd had a job in the past where he really needed to stay up and on his game all of the time. And so anything he could do to stimulate, to keep his brain active and going. And so
Uh-huh.
he's still leaning into some of those habits. So we took sugar out of his diet, added sugar out of his diet, and it took him a little while to adjust. He said, I'm not sure that I like this even-keeled me, right? I'm used to running on these highs and then dealing with the lows. But he was far more even-keeled. He was not fighting with his wife anymore. He was getting along with his daughter so much better. He, in his retirement, is Uber driving, so he's not angry. He's not dealing with road rage all the time because his moods are far more stable. And he told me at the end, like, I knew that there were pieces that I needed to do, but I didn't know how to put it all together into a big plan and make it all work for myself. And I had no idea that there was such a massive connection between what I ate and how I felt and how I acted. But it's there. He called me out rather crassly just because he just had a kind of a rough job in his previous life. But he said, this is just amazing. Like I can't believe how much change has happened. And still I get notes from him about every 3 months. He checks in and says, I'm still stable. I'm still applying the principles. I can't believe what a difference this has made. So yes, it can have a direct impact on our mood and emotions. It's not always the bipolar diagnosis that we're looking at. Sometimes the food is driving symptoms that look like that, right?
Well, that's amazing because a lot of people will only rely on medications alone and
Yes.
they're not going to look at that holistic approach. So I really like that. And I have also removed sugar from my diet for the
Mm.
last couple of months and I've replaced it with, with monk fruit,
Yes.
which is just as sweet. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel much of a difference. And I definitely can tell you that I have a lot more energy
Yes.
just naturally. It's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
It is because sugar depletes our systems, right? It fires everything off. It sets our body into a state of stress. The adrenal glands start firing off adrenaline, trying to keep up with everything we need to process inside the body. And it actually ends up leaving us more fatigued in the long run. And sugar is inflammatory. It's leaving us more fatigued in the long run. So when you can take that out and replace it with something clean, like the only two things I recommend are either monk fruit or stevia. And I to watch your intake with them. Make sure they're not mixed with erythritol. We've got studies coming out showing that erythritol is connected with heart disease and heart attacks. It's not good for the gut microbiome. So we're trying to protect that as we go through life. So pure stevia is fine. Pure monk fruit is fine. Make sure it doesn't have erythritol added into it.
Mm-hmm. Or just sugar from fruits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you can get your, and again, we
Mm-hmm.
need to be careful. Like we having a couple of pieces of fruit per day is great. It's got all the vitamins and minerals and things in it that we need to help
Mm-hmm.
as cofactors to make our neurotransmitters. But if you overdo it, I just read a news article the other day about some poor woman who died because she had taken it to the extreme and she was only living on fruit, right? So
Oh.
everything everything is in balance. We need
Mm-hmm.
fructose can be pretty hard on the body, which is in fruit. So we just need a little bit at the end of our meals to not elicit this huge blood sugar spike and then drop off.
That's true. That is true. And talking about food and fruits,
Hmm.
why is it that organic food is so helpful for people that are struggling with depression?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest takeaways that I had when I was initially going through my board certification in holistic nutrition. He talked to us about the impact of how when pesticides are created, they are designed to interfere with a bug's heart and brain function. So the connection between the brain and the heart and the lungs. And so it will stop the brain will stop the heart and lungs from pumping like they are supposed to. So we know that they interfere with the communication that's going on inside the brain. And I know we spray it. People will say, well, it's micro doses, right? Micro doses by the time I get, and I'm a big person and I'm not a tiny little bug. And I get that. But also, heart disease is one of our leading causes of death in the US. And our pesticide soaked produce is contributing to that. They've done studies that showed that kids that ate an organic diet had just infinitely better memory and education and ability to study and learn and retain the information. So these pesticides have a direct impact on how our brains function and then how they impact our organs. And if you're trying to protect your brain, then the thing you also need to protect is your heart, because if you end up having a heart attack and a stroke, then you are directly impacting whether or not your brain is functioning like it's supposed to be.
Wow, that's interesting. I never made that connection that it was supposed to attack the bug's heart and brain
Yeah, it
connection.
literally interferes with acetylcholine, the enzyme that clears out the gaps between the synapses so that information can be passed across. It impacts
Hmm.
those and then makes it difficult for the information to get across the synapses in the brain.
Wow. Well, talking about all these nutrients, what would you say are like the best nutrients for a healthy brain?
Right. So we start with protein. Protein is the cleanest source of neurotransmitter formation that we have inside the gut and inside the body. The proteins are made up of amino acids, which are the smallest part of a protein. And each one of those contributes and starts building our neurotransmitters. So it will begin with tryptophan, maybe inside turkey, and then that will get made into 5-HTP, which gets made into serotonin, and then into melatonin so we can sleep. And dopamine starts with DL-phenylalanine and then builds with tyrosine into dopamine and then adrenaline and noradrenaline. So we need proteins, and the most complete source of those is meat, but it doesn't mean that a vegan or a vegetarian can't find those sources. They just have to be incredibly strategic and sensible, because there are no complete proteins. A couple, tell a lie, asparagus is a complete protein, but they need to be able to grab different foods throughout the day to build those complete proteins. So that's a starting point. Then we need good amounts of omega-3s inside our diet. They help us to communicate across the brain synapses so that the brain can talk and send the messages out to the rest of the body. And it helps with mood as well. We know that. But we also need other good healthy fats like omega-6s. We need healthy amounts of uninflammatory. It's a whole topic for another day, but healthy amounts of omega-6s as well sometimes in our diet to bring balance to that. We need good fiber. We need fermented foods to help support the gut microbiome, because that's what's making our neurotransmitters inside the digestive tract, all those little microbes. We need good hydration. If we're not hydrated, then our brains shrink and they don't function the way they're supposed to. So limiting caffeine and making sure that you have enough water and electrolytes going in during the day. And then all your fruits and vegetables are going to give you the cofactors, your vitamins, your minerals that help your body to make your neurotransmitters and help the rest of your body function the way that it's supposed to.
Interesting. Why the limiting on caffeine?
Caffeine is a diuretic. A little bit can be helpful. I certainly enjoy a really good cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and I'm British, so I feel like a bit of a traitor to the UK saying that, like I'm not drinking tea all day long anymore. But I really do enjoy a very good cup of coffee first thing in the morning. But I make sure, again, coffee is one of the dirtiest crops out there. It's full of pesticides and mold. And so we want to make sure that's super clean. I personally like Purity coffee, but there are others out there that guarantee that it doesn't have all of those toxins in there. So keeping that limited and early in the day, caffeine has a super long half-life. And so if you start drinking coffee in the afternoon, then you are going to disrupt your sleep. And if there's one thing that our bodies need above all else, like if we could start somewhere, getting you 7+ hours of good, regulated, restful sleep at night is probably one of the most important things we can do for your mental well-being, for your physical health, for your function. Your brain cleans itself up at night. It does a lot of work at night while you're sleeping, and it can't do that if it's not getting into its proper rest states. So caffeine can really drive that inability to rest well, and it can also drive anxiety. So again, if you're dealing with anxiety, then loading up on coffee, you might find you can't tolerate. I certainly couldn't. When I was in the throes of my anxiety attacks, it would make things 10 times worse. So we're healed up now to the place where I can enjoy a cup of coffee and it's fine. But you
Okay.
just need to be careful because it can drive that anxiety too.
Interesting. And yes, I agree with the sleep part.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yes.
function if I don't sleep at least
Right.
7 hours a night.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Well, what kind of testings do you recommend for somebody that wants to check their brain health?
We have I have a long list when somebody comes into my
Okay.
office. But basically, we're looking for some regular things that you would get from your doctors, like a CBC and a CMP. We're looking for an omega panel. So we can do a lipid panel, but we want to know what your omega-6 to omega-3 ratios are as well. We want to look at things like B12 and folate. Do you have enough of those B vitamins to help make your neurotransmitters? Because maybe you have MTHFR and your body's not using those well enough, converting them over well enough, and triggering anxiety and depression. We want to look at zinc to copper ratios. Many postpartum mums have too much copper in their body, and supplementing with a little bit of
Oh,
zinc can bring that back into balance. So too much copper can drive depression and suicidality, and zinc can really help bring balance to that. So we're looking at those ratios. We're also looking at things like GGT, which is a measure of liver health. We're looking at homocysteine and C-reactive protein. We want to know what your inflammation levels are like inside the body. That's just the basics. And then we do more detailed testing, looking at delayed food sensitivities. I might do a NutriVal from, I think it's Genova Diagnostics that does that one. We can look at organic acids in the body too, which is basically looking at the byproducts that your body is producing to give us clues about what's going on in the microbiome. But if I have, and other things too, actually, like it might show mold toxicity, it might show high yeast overgrowth, it can look at the neurotransmitters a little bit. So it's a pretty comprehensive test. But then if I've got somebody in my office who's really struggling with digestive issues, then we're going to do a comprehensive stool analysis and we're going to have a look and see what's really going on inside the gut. Do we have dysbiosis? Do we have parasites? What's triggering the symptoms that you're experiencing?
wow. Yeah, that's quite a lot of testing.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Um, but since you mentioned about the omegas, and
Mhm.
I'm actually my background is in vitamins and supplements,
Okay.
so I've worked in that space for many, many years. I know how it's impactful for
Mhm.
not just the physical but our mental health too. What are the supplements that you recommend that would do, a big difference in a person's life?
Yeah. So I have my favorites. I think a lot of practitioners do, right? They have their favorites
Mhm.
that they go to. When somebody comes into my office, I usually put them on. I like Nordic Naturals. They're really a very clean source of omegas. So I will put them on Pro Omega 2000 because unless you're like, if you're really brave, then you can do the fish oil, liquid fish oil. But I don't have a lot of people
Right.
in my office that are like, yum, sign me up for that. Um, so we will do the capsules, and they're one of the highest doses I can get in a capsule. So
Mhm.
basically, a gram of fish oil, omega 3s per capsule. So, and you're looking at therapeutic dosing in this situation, right? So we might be doing 2 to 4 grams per day. And so we want the quickest, easiest way we can to get that in. I do a multivitamin for everybody, and I encourage people all the time, don't take multivitamins that are full of red coloring and blue coloring and talc and all these crappy filler products, because you're trying to take something to help support your health. We want to see things in there like methylcobalamin instead of cyanocobalamin. We're looking for methylfolate instead of folic acid. Things that are plant-based that your body knows how to utilize. I love Pure Encapsulations Nutrient 950 with NAC often. NAC is a precursor to our glutathione, which is our body's primary detox enzyme. So we'll do that. And then I might do a probiotic with them. And that depends just on what they've got going on in their digestive health, depends on which probiotic I tend to pick. But I do like Seeking Health. They have one that does not drive histamine responses. And so many people that I have in my office have had mold exposure or they're dealing with MCAS, and then they cannot tolerate extra histamine in the body. And that's a really gentle probiotic for them. And then we do diet for the first month just to rule out any dietary causes of mood instability. And then we can bring in supplements, amino acid therapy. We can supplement with everything from L-tryptophan to 5-HTP to DL-phenylalanine or tyrosine to help impact mood and to bring relief. And I will use adaptogens a lot in my office as well, like bacopa or ashwagandha or maca
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
rhodiola, depending on what they've got going on, but to help support adrenal health. And then if they've got stuff going on that's extra to that, maybe they've got stuff going on with their gut that needs support, we can work on cleanse protocols to help get that under control too.
Great. What about creatine? Is there any benefit mentally?
Yeah, I mean, the studies are out there showing that creatine is one of the helpful and beneficial things for not just for our muscles, right? We use it in pre-workout, post-workout to help with building muscles, but it really can be very beneficial for the brain. I will tell you, I gave it a shot. I wanted to see, I experiment on myself a fair amount. What if I put this in? What if I
Uh-huh.
take that out? And I did creatine for a little while, and I actually found it dulled and depressed my mood, and it did not help me. So
Really?
I cannot figure out. I've tried to research the mechanism of action behind that, but I did find myself just in this kind of low mood all the time. And when I took it out, I found myself picking up and just feeling brighter and more like my brain was turned on. So I'm not sure. And this just goes back to the whole idea that we're all bio-individual. And so just because a supplement is working for your buddy down the road does not mean it's going to be the right fit for you. And
That's true.
yeah. Talking to somebody who understands how these supplements not only may impact you, what side effects you might have from them, but also how they interact with medications or your current health conditions. Like, don't take licorice as an adaptogen if you have high blood pressure and you're on high blood pressure medication, right? We need to have these conversations so that we're not messing up health in the long run. And talking to somebody who understands both those worlds is really wise as you start introducing things into your lifestyle choices.
Yeah, that is true. Not everything is for everyone.
Right.
For example, I've been taking creatine for years, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's good for me.
Yeah.
but you had a complete different experience.
Right. I felt super strong. Like, my muscles did not feel nearly as fatigued. I would find my workouts, I had better recovery, but I will not mess with my mood. If I'm feeling low emotionally, then I'm not effective professionally, and I can't afford to mess with that. So I will take my brain over my muscles any single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any other, success stories that you want to share with us with clients that you worked with before that had, again, another change in their diet that was a huge effect on their lives?
Yeah, I mean, not even just with mental health. And I was explaining this to somebody else the other day that what we eat, the World Health Organization tells us that 80% of the time, if we would just change diet and lifestyle, we would have dramatic improvements in health. So I've had multiple people come in my office, and within weeks of changing their diet, their pain levels have dropped from a 10 to a 2. Well, guess who's more, active and involved and engaged and happy and not stressed out are the people who are not in pain, right? And
Mhm.
I think of Dan. Dan came into my office. He actually wanted to get his blood sugar under control. That was the primary focus. And so we started working on those things together. We took the added sugars out of his diet. We got him on protein every 3 hours. And we just started working. We took his delayed food sensitivities out. And within just a couple of weeks, he told me, he was so excited. He said, my mood has improved, as well as I'm getting off my insulin. I'm lowering and getting off of that. And my pain levels have dropped from a 10 to a 2. He said, the thing that struck me, though, is that my mood is exponentially better. And people at work are noticing. They're telling me that I'm a better boss. They're telling me that I seem happier when I show up at work. Why is that? And so I explained to him the correlation between our inflammation levels and sugar and how it impacts the brain, and how when we take that out, it often quiets down this mood and aggression and mood swings and panic attacks. The symptoms of a panic attack are exactly the same as low blood sugar. And it can be a simple drop. It doesn't sound like a lot, but they say if it's like 30-point drop over 6 hours. I've had clients who've done a 30-point drop over half an hour. And that alone, all by itself, is enough to trigger the body to panic and feel like it needs to regain homeostasis, right? It releases adrenaline, so it'll release glucose from the liver. And they feel like they're having a panic attack. So Dan's like, I don't understand why I feel better. And I said, it's just because we got your sugars under control. And he said to me, why doesn't my endocrinologist talk to me about this? And it's because they just really, truly, I don't think they know. And they don't get a ton of nutrition education in school,
Yeah.
right? Maybe 6 weeks of nutrition education if they're lucky. And so they don't often know the correlation. And we've become such a separate society. Our heads are separate from our hearts, are separate from our guts, are separate from our feet, right? We go and see a specialist for all of these different things. And it takes somebody coming back and saying, let's look at you as a whole, right? And figure out what's going on with you. Just as what's impacting what else is going on inside your body.
That's so true. That holistic approach is truly missing in today's
Hmm.
society, and it's not just United States healthcare. I think it's all over the world.
It's getting that
So
way. For
yeah,
sure.
so that's
Yeah.
really great that you get that approach, and people are able to find solutions. They're not just based solely on a medication, right? That's going to have a bunch of
Right.
side effects.
Right. And I'm not anti-meds. I'm not
Hmm.
anti-physician. There are time and place when those are appropriate and they might be needed. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she said, probably summed it up really well. For those emergency situations, I've got a daughter with a serious health condition going on right now. She needed to see a cardiologist. She needed to make sure that everything was okay. Once that was done and that was ruled out, then we can move on with all the other things that are going on. And we're
Hmm.
treating it from a holistic perspective. She has a phenomenal team on her side, but we need them. We do need them, but too often we rely on a pill to fix what we really need to take the energy and effort to change in our lifestyle. And it's easier to take the pill than it is to make these wholesale lifestyle changes that we have to
Right.
stick with, right? So it's easy to want to take the pill. But I think we really, as a society, we need to start getting back to some of the basics, eating like your grandmother or your great grandmother chose to eat, eating ingredients. Like if you look at the ingredients on a packet, even of the processed foods that we eat and what were in them 60 years ago and what's in them today, you can't even pronounce the ingredients that are in there. And that's not food. It's not supporting your body.
That's true. And I get it's just so complicated when, I go shopping. I have to read
Mm-hmm.
every single label, or I
Mm-hmm.
just gotta go to specific stores like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's,
Yes.
because at least I know there's gonna be more things that I can consume.
Yep.
But even like for my daughter too, I found out she had an allergy to red food dye.
Yes. Okay.
So, and it's because she got really sick from eating a candy at school.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything now we have to read all the labels, but it shouldn't be that way, you know?
No, and I do see that in countries like the UK, I see a shift and change. If I want to go, candy's still candy and it's still got sugar in it. I get that. But if you look at the kids' candies in the UK, they are colored with spinach and they are colored with beets. They don't
Oh,
have
really?
all, yeah, they don't have all of those. Yeah, most of them at least do not have all of those food colorings in. And it's quite a departure from how it is here. In fact, foods that are sold, they have raids in the UK in the corner shops, pulling out the foods that have been illegally imported from the US that contain ingredients that are outlawed in the UK because of their future cancer risk or their health, health risks. So yeah, they take it pretty seriously. It's not perfect over there, but they do have some of those things figured out.
Nice. Well, that's helpful. I think that's one of the biggest problems today is because we want convenience, we want to eat
Hmm.
quick, and we want to get back to work, and we go back into those processed foods, but
Yes.
it's not. It's
Well, and
long
as
term.
yeah, as an industry too, I mean, they are engineered to be addictive. So it's
Yeah.
not, it's almost on the border of insidious, when these organizations, giant organizations, have scientists in their team who are trying to create the perfect satiety. When I bite into this, I get this perfect melt point. I get this perfect bite. I get this perfect hit off of the sugar, salt, fat sensors. I get the perfect dopamine hit. They are working on all of that with these ultra processed foods. They want you to keep coming back and buying it over and over again. And it is most of the time completely nutritionally deficient. It is
Right.
not supporting your body or your health in any way, shape, or form. And when you keep firing off your dopamine like that, you're going to end up depleting it. Your body, you just you're setting your whole body up for failure when you lean into those ultra processed foods.
Wow, you said everything. It's engineered to be addictive.
It's engineered to be addictive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I think to finalize here, my last question would be, when someone comes to see you, for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? What are the first steps that you take with a client?
Yeah, so I do a free call, so we can find out whether or not you are the best fit for me and I'm the best fit for you. And then we can find you a helper if, like I've had clients come to me and say, can you help me with cancer? I don't do that. I have referral places that I can send you to. So we make sure we're a good fit. And then I encourage everybody to spend their first month with me doing all the digging and the research. So we will send out for labs if their doctor's office can get them done. We will do it through insurance. I do not take insurance. So, sometimes those labs are covered by their insurance companies. We can get it done that way. The ones that I do as extra labs are not covered by insurance, generally speaking, but I will ask them to get those done. Delayed food sensitivity testing, gut testing. That's our first month. They will fill out a bunch of assessments. I have a nutritional assessment questionnaire that has like over 300 questions on it. I'm trying to figure out symptom-wise where your body needs support. And so we're looking at that. We're looking at amino acids through symptomology as well. I do a pyroluria assessment. And then we bring all of that together to see where the body needs support. And then I will put together a customized plan and we will roll that out over a 90-minute appointment together. And we will, like, I break things down in traditional Chinese medicine. They have certain categories for where the organs function, and so we will lean into that category and those nutrients that specifically support it. We will help together to build nutrition plans and ideas of where they can find those foods, how to take out their delayed food allergies. All of those things are covered. And then they have coaching appointments over the next 3 months. And we spend time together just implementing lifestyle change, answering any questions that they have, reviewing supplements as needed, and complementary therapies. And so we do that coaching over 4 to 6 months typically, because lifestyle change takes a long time and it can be very overwhelming. You said yourself, I'm stood in the grocery store just reading all the labels. And
Yes.
that's the biggest complaint I get in the beginning. Like, it's taking me hours to shop in the beginning. But we have lists of foods that are, at least my taste bud approved, right? There are some foods out there that are alternative that taste awful. So let's not waste your money there. And then I have a 12-week program too that teaches everyone the things that I have already learned over my last 7 years, 10 years of doing this. I've put it all together in a 12-week program that they can follow along and learn how sugar impacts their brain, learn how pesticides impact their brain, learn how omega-3s impact their brain. And so we help them clean out their pantry and put all the right ingredients inside there. We talk about complementary therapies, getting the right help from therapists and all of those things, because I'm a part of a puzzle. I'm not the whole solution. I still have a talk therapist, right? So I'm a part of a team of people coming together to help you feel better mentally. And we work through all of those pieces in that 12-week program while we're working together.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, so for the complementary therapists, like what are they? Like, were you
Yeah.
talking about like just an actual therapist or any other alternative
Yeah.
treatments?
Yeah, so we will lean. So talk therapy is important. Equine therapy, art therapy, right? All of those things might be a complementary therapy that benefit you. But we also look at things like, does a castor oil pack fit for you? Do you need to do a detox bath? Could you do sauna? Do you need time out forest bathing? Do you need to do acupuncture? Like, what is the thing, 2 or 3 things that you can implement? Maybe yoga, exercise, movement. What are the things you can implement that will also help to support you on your wellness journey?
Mm-hmm. Very well. Well, very well. This was super interesting, Jane. Thank you so much for sharing all this valuable information. How can people find out more about you and your work?
Yep, I have. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Mental Health Nutrition Coach. And I have a website, sycamoreandsagenutrition.com.
And where are you located again?
I'm in Mesa, Arizona, but I can do
Okay.
telehealth across most states. And on the
Okay.
states that they have, some states are title protected, and on those we can do the 12-week program together. So you still are learning all that information, but I'm not doling out personalized advice. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
You'll still learn and you'll still get better.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this was really, really wonderful. So thank you again. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. And I think that's it. I think
Thank you so much for having
we
me,
wrapped
Catherine. I
up.
really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you guys for watching us at the Healthy Care Podcast. See you on the next one.